Hi there guys, and welcome to another episode of the Cover Zero Show with me, your host Simon Conboy. Today's episode is a game review. So week one's almost in the books. We've just got the two Monday night games to go, and this episode I'll be focusing on the Sunday night football game between the Cowboys and the Giants. Well, the game was certainly not the most entertaining. A 19-3 victory for the Cowboys at home. As I did suggest this in my preview, I saw the Giants winning this game if Odell Beckham played. He did not, and as a result, their offense was ultimately the downfall in this one. We saw the Cowboys offense looking very similar to what it did last year. It's not an enormously explosive group if you can take Des Bryant somewhat out of the game. Janoris Jenkins once again did a fantastic job on him. Bryant really having one big catch in the game over the middle against zone coverage. We managed to pick up a lot of yards after the catch. Ezekiel Elliott ran the ball very well against a stout front. Didn't manage to break any. It was kind of a bit of a push, that matchup, I thought. The Giants' run defence, particularly considering how often they were on the field, did an admirable job containing him. Whilst he was able to maintain and keep drives going, again, you can't really criticise either side for this. I think that run battle was a fantastic matchup, and both sides had their wins. And had the Giants' offence just been able to offer up anything in this game, then they could have done enough to win. Dak Prescott, I thought, played well in the second half. The first half, he was just a little bit off. He managed to miss Des Bryant in the end zone on a couple of throws. In particular, the slant that he just absolutely overthrew. That was a particularly bad pass. Made a couple of poor throws over the course of the game, but much like last season, his mobility was a big factor. He is very difficult to pin down in the pocket, and his decision making was once again exceptional. I've got to say, based on this performance, it looks like he's just a very, very smart quarterback on the field in terms of not making any silly plays. Wasn't really forced to have to do too much tonight. Or last night. Once again, as I say, the Giants' offense, when I get to them, they were very poor. Terrence Williams ended up pretty much being the go-to guy, picking on Eli Apple a little bit. That's where the vast majority of their production came in the past game. Again, most of this stuff was short. The team didn't have to take any risks. They were going up against a very good secondary. Lack of pass rush. Really, I thought Lyle Collins did a really good job for the most part on JPP. He got beat on a couple of plays, but handled himself well in his first game as the new right tackle. The usual suspects on the offensive line in Zach Martin, Travis Frederick and Tyron Smith played very well. Smith had a couple of penalties, but held up in pass protection. They run blocked well. On the defensive side for the Giants, there's a lot of positives to take. They look like the same stout unit they were last year. Once again, that run defense played very, very well. The only really noticeable error was one that Collinsworth pointed out right at the end of the game when the Giants needed to stop, when Jason Pierre-Paul was too active in trying to come inside and make a play, possibly reading it as a pass, gave away the edge, and Ezekiel Elliott was able to convert that into a first down. But at the end of the day, considering the amount of time they were on the field to hold this team to only the one touchdown, and it looks like a good offense once again there in Dallas. It is a great job. So, as I said, the run lanes, they did a great job of contain. Ezekiel Elliott last year was very good at getting to the outside. This team getting the edge on teams and breaking big plays there. They managed to absolutely limit that. So everything was up the middle. Nothing particularly broke out. Ezekiel Elliott managed to break a few tackles over the course of the game, but for the most part, kept him in check, limiting him to runs of below 10 yards. There are a few run stuffs in there. It's just so hard to get get him in the backfield. The few times they had opportunities, he's able to make guys miss or just power through and pick up short yardage. And I think that's one of the greatest strengths of Ezekiel Elliott's game, is just he finds a way to get you yardage where sometimes there just should not be anything there. He made a couple of plays in the pass game. As I say, it was very much an Ezekiel Elliott performance. It looked a lot like he did last year. He's still quick, powerful, fast, and does a good job in pass protection. As I said, Des Bryant kept very quiet. Jason Witten was Jason Witten, much like I suggested. He'd have his catches. He'd be a guy they go to. Still don't think the Giants have anyone there, because you're not going to dedicate Landon Collins to covering Witten at this point in his career. He's not a game-breaking player, but he ran a really crisp route on the touchdown. Dak Prescott saw that. That was an easy throw. The defense really did bite hard on that play action. That was really his biggest impact. Other than that, a few short, over the middle catches, a couple of really nice ones. One toward the end of the game that really helped ice it out was very smart play by Prescott, where he escaped the pocket, threw it hard and low towards Witten, who managed to scoop it off the ground. Those kind of plays just kept happening throughout the night. The Giants just weren't quite able to make the big plays when they were there. They really only had the one opportunity at an interception, and even then it ends up in the Cowboys' favour as Cole Beasley made a rather ridiculous catch on the sideline. It could have easily been a pick six. Fortunately for Prescott, he just got enough on the ball, and it was just out of reach enough for the defender that it managed to get to Beasley, who made a circus catch. Catching it against his back plate, sort of spinning around. It was absolutely ridiculous. But other than that, there wasn't enough of a threat from the Giants' defence to actually make a huge game-changing play. But they deserve a ton of credit. They were on the field in the first half. I mean, it was just all Giants. I think all Cowboys. The Giants got 2 first downs. So that was just the Giants' defence just doing what they could to limit the Cowboys. Ended up going in down 16-0. I mean, for me, the point where I figured this game was out of reach was the Giants having the ball just after the 2-minute warning, down 13-0, and just go get something. You've got the ball to start the second half. If they can get any kind of points on that drive, then they're well in the game, especially if they get a touchdown. It's a one-score game and they get the ball next. Instead, they just go 3 and out again, or maybe they picked up 1 first down. I can't remember off the top of my head. And the Cowboys have enough time to march down the field and score a field goal. And at that point, considering how the Giants' offense was playing, it looked unassailable. Moving on to that side of the ball, the other matchup, the Giants' offense and the Cowboys' defense. I will give some credit to the Cowboys' defense. I'm, like most people, have figured they're probably going to be a very poor unit this year. This is not the game to make those judgments. It looked to me like Rod Marinelli once again did a fantastic job of coaching them and having a good game plan for this game. But I'm not sure they had to do too much. As I've been speculating before the season began, just like last season, this Giants offensive line is an absolute mess. And we saw a few teams with this problem yesterday where their offense just couldn't get anything going because the blocking was so poor. Paul Perkins had no running lanes to work with. Sean Lee and Jalen Smith both looked really good. Lee, I've said, is possibly the best pass coverage backer in football, and we saw that on a couple of occasions, just making really good plays underneath. If you're playing in a cover 2, that's the guy I think you want on your team at the linebacker position right now. He's just exceptional in that role. Smith looked fast. He looked good against guys trying to block him. Made a couple of good tackles. So that was, I think, a real plus for them. But things were made easy for them. DeMarcus Lawrence had a great game. Even Charles Tapper did, the defensive ends. These 2 tackles just look like liabilities. Eric Flowers is a bust at this point. I don't think you can... I mean, the Giants don't really have much choice, but he really should not be a blindside protector at this point in his career. He looks like he's got a lot of work. He's just too slow-footed, and he just doesn't look athletic enough to match up with any form of speed rusher. Conversely, on the right side, things weren't much better there. Constant pressure on Eli Manning, even a little bit up the middle. The interior didn't do a great job. There were absolutely no rush lanes whatsoever, whether it was Dark while running or Paul Perkins. They managed to sneak a couple of reasonable runs out of it, but nothing to write home about. So with that, the entire game ended up being thrust onto Eli's shoulders, and without Odell Beckham, there wasn't enough there. Collinsworth was constantly talking through the night about looking to get Evan Ingram involved, how he should have been the focal point. I mean, it's a rookie tight end, and we saw, he's not any help in the blocking game. I thought it was a strange draft pick in terms of just what this team needed. I thought they should have went for a tackle, and judging by the performance last night, I've forgotten the right tackle's name. Dang it. But judging by the performance last night, that's absolutely the case. They should have picked somebody up. Ingram had a few catches, but they couldn't pass protect enough to make any attempts down the field. I don't remember Eli. He had a couple of throwaways deep, but I don't think he threw anything up there. Most of the stuff was very, very short, looking for yards after the catch. Again, that's where you miss Odell Beckham so much. Adding Brandon Marshall's all well and good. He's not going to, at this point in his career, he's not going to help enormously in that facet of the game. He might be able to run over a couple of, some of the smaller guys, but he's not going to break any massive plays after the catch. Sterling Shepard was heavily targeted as, I think the only guy that really Eli trusted in the game, and even then in the first half they just weren't able to get anything going. So Shepard had a few underneath catches in the second half, ended up putting together a reasonable stat line. But Eli ended up throwing a pretty bad interception. Moved well in the pocket. He was under pressure all day, but just wasn't able to get anything going. The pressure led to a lot of poor throws. There were a few opportunities, particularly in that first half. Therefore, plays intermediate. One in particular to Brandon Marshall, where he just threw way behind him. That would have been a big third down conversion and could have went a long way afterwards. It was also a throw to Brandon Marshall toward the end when they were chasing the game, and Marshall was wide open on his own on the left. Eli was under pressure and running, and just threw a horrible pass. Otherwise, that could have got the Giants back into the game. But really, this game never felt, after about 10 minutes, it just never felt like the Giants were in it. Their offense really was that bad. Defensively, the Cowboys didn't do anything that you wouldn't expect from a Rod Marinelli defense. The front was very active. They didn't blitz. They just bought with four. There was no need to blitz, frankly. The four were getting more than enough pressure. There were a few stunts. I say both of the ends were getting a decent amount of pressure throughout the game. The corners held up far better than I would have expected. But at the end of the day, it just never felt like they were challenged. So I think if you're the Giants, you've just got to really question, whether this offense is going to be able to function when you're playing against the top teams. Because I understand what a difference Odell Beckham makes in terms of how he affects the other team's coverage and the weapon that he gives you, because anytime you get the ball in his hands, there is a possibility he's going to break a really big play out of it. But I mean, this is just like last season with this offensive line. This offense just looks broken, and I've speculated last year the only reason this team made the playoffs was because Odell Beckham was able to make so many plays. And based on what I saw last night, that's absolutely the case. Without him, this team just can't function offensively. Brandon Marshall's not a game breaker at this point. Evan Ingram is, he's a rookie at the end of the day. They're not. I saw nothing to suggest they're going to be able to run the ball. There were no signs of improvement. If anything, there was regression. It makes it difficult to even evaluate Eli at this point, because He's never been a guy that you want on the run, making those throws. He's very much a pocket passer, and he's not given the opportunity to be that. So yeah, a heck of a lot of concern for the Giants. I'm not sure how they can, without Beckham, I'm not even sure how they can game plan to have this offense be productive, because I don't think this Cowboys defense is great. And last night they were made to look great, and that could be the case. It could be wrong, but it's a very unproven group. A lot of new pieces there. We won't know until a bit further into the season. But based on last year, I think it's more than likely that it is just this Giants offense is just utterly broken at this point because of this offensive line. It just, things aren't going to work. They need Odell Beckham back. Otherwise, based on what we saw from the Lions yesterday, that could be an ugly game as well. Cowboys defense all positive, really. Frankly, it's hard to really criticise and say. I like the play of Jalen Smith. Sean Lee looked great as usual. DeMarcus Lawrence, I think, had a really nice game. Secondary held up. Don't feel they were really tested, to be honest. So it was about as good a game as you could really hope for the Cowboys on the defensive side of the ball. It'd be a nice confidence boost. I do think if they'd been torched, it could have been a big issue. It would have been all over the news for the next week. You never know with young players whether that sort of stuff will get into their heads. So now they get to, maybe that confidence will help them play better over the next few weeks. So I'm going to be interested in following this Cowboys defense, seeing just how good they are. Certainly, if I was to do the power rankings, I'd probably have to move them up a little bit, my defensive rankings based on this. But I don't even know what the Giants' game plan was heading into this game. It's pretty clear what the Cowboys was, and it was just like last season. It was to control the clock, run the ball effectively up the middle, make a few bigger plays off the play action, try and go to Dez a couple of times down the field, and attack them over the middle of the field. Attack those linebackers with Jason Witten and Cole Beasley, and when they're in zone, having Williams come across. And really, it worked. It wasn't exceptional, and as I say, the Cowboys will need to finish drives better, but to be honest, they're going to play against worse defences than this. All positives for the Cowboys. Dak looked a few off throws that could have been just him getting into the swing of things, but his decision making was on point throughout the night. It was nice to see him taking control of the huddle, changing some plays, so that was good to see another step in his development in that regard. Terrence Williams having a bigger game than he usually does. Dez will have his bigger games. I'm sure Janoris Jenkins once again was just incredibly physical and throughout the night. Played an exceptional game. And Witten is Jason Witten's still Jason Witten. He's gonna have his 6 to 8 catches for short yardage a game, but they're going to be important catches. The O-line looked really good, even with the two new starters. They were going up against an exceptional front. They did a good job keeping Dak clean. When he was pressured, he did a pretty good job escaping. So all positives for the Cowboys really from this game, other than, as I say, the one thing I would want to see is them finish drives better. And Giants defense, again, mad props to them. I think they had a great game. That front did a really good job. I would have expected them to have been getting gutted in the second half more than they were. They did a really good job holding up. They must have been absolutely exhausted, tackling Ezekiel Elliott as often as they had to. It must have been horrid, but they held up really well. So there you have it. It's a concerning game, I think, if you're the Giants. A very concerning game. That offense just was absolutely woeful. And real positive for the Cowboys. You'd have to think if this defense can hold up, then this looks like a really good team. Once again, once they do get Ezekiel Elliott back, this offense is really sound. It's good at what it does. I don't think they're going to be a huge threat to score, enormous amounts of points on teams on a weekly basis, but they're tough to stop. They don't make mistakes. They don't give you too many opportunities. That O-line, even with those new players, looked great once again. Chaz Green also had one of the blocks of the weekend. Oh my goodness, there was like a play where he pulled out and he absolutely wrecked a linebacker. So I enjoyed that. I love a good pancake block. So yeah, if Odell Beckham wasn't in the game, I would have expected a little more from the Giants, but it kind of played out somewhat how I expected. So there you have it. That's my assessment of that game. Much to be concerned about, as I say, with the Giants. Cowboys, you can feel good heading into week 2. Gonna wait until there's a sterner test before I come to a conclusion on that Cowboys D. So let us know. What do you guys think of the game? What do you think of this review? Do you agree, disagree with any of my assessments? Is there anything that really stood out to yourself? Let us know, whether it's the comment section below, the Cover Zero Facebook page. You can find me on Twitter at Simon Conboy. Always happy to talk football with you all. And if you've enjoyed this, check out some of the other reviews that are going to be going up. I'm going to be definitely doing the Packers-Seahawks game today. The 2 Monday Night Football games I'll be doing tomorrow. Probably going to do Titans-Raiders, and then if I can get a 4th game in as well, I will. Got a lot of football to watch today. But this game, I thought I could just quickly watch it in condensed mode, see if there's anything else that jumped out. But it did seem like, through watching it the one time round, I didn't think I was going to pick up anything huge. It was a pretty simple game in the end. So, yeah, if you can check those out. Plenty of other stuff on the channel. Check out the weekly roundtable when that goes up. We'll be covering every game that happened. There'll be another episode previewing every game coming up this weekend. So that should be fun. Thank you so much for watching. If you could like, share, subscribe, check out the Patreon, that would be grand. It's been a pleasure as always. Greatly appreciate everyone who does tune in. And have a great day. Go Bucks.